5th of October 2022, held online via Microsoft Teams. As we're having challenges with load shedding currently in the country, understand that from time to time there could be some minor disruptions, which will ensure that we keep them at the minimum. So welcome. We'll proceed with the item 6, noting that the other items that have been dealt with already in camera were just for the routine official meeting processes. We'll then go straight to item that has been moved forward, the one for the Engine Petroleum Pty Ltd's application for the second amendment to the condition of a license issued for the operation of a petroleum storage facility in Wentworth, KwaZulu-Natal province. Over to you, Madam Twa, and your team.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning again to the members and colleagues. Chair, on this matter, Ms. Monyebedi is available online to give us the introduction, and also be assisted by Ms. Sibalo. Kindly note that following the workshop that we had with the members, we had prepared a 2-pager. However, it was unable to reach the members on time. So we will talk to the comments that were raised at the workshop and try and address all the concerns that were raised. And also the legal team is there to assist in terms of all the legal matters. Through you, Chair, Ms. Manyubedi, please come in. Thank you.
I would just like to say that while Madam Manyubedi is presenting, if you can please just email, ensure that the 2-pager is emailed to members of them in case they need just to refer quickly as the presentation is being made. We know that the matter has been a workshop. Just stick to the issues that were highlighted during the workshop and your responses there too. Thank you. Proceed, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to the members. Chair, as you raised as well in the workshop, we will also email the 2-pager to members as well. In the manner that I will address the questions, I will start with the ones related to mental concerns, and then the clarity that was sought on some of the tanks and the impact of the proposed infrastructure on other upcoming construction projects. And then we'll also just provide a feedback on the redeployment of the employees following the refinery closure. But just to be clear, Chairperson, our recommendation is still that we approve the proposed amendment with the addition of a storage capacity of 452,000 cubic meters, and also approve the amended license conditions thereof. How the pipelines link to the other engine applications and their classification. For that, we have enhanced our background sections as guided to reflect the context of how these pipes were approved last month. And with regards to the classification in particular of the pipelines, is that we confirm that these cannot be classified as auxiliary to the storage because they leave the premises of the storage facility, and therefore they are classified as licensable.
I seem to have lost you. I don't know whether it's me or...
It's on her side, Chair.
Maybe Ms. Sibalo can just come in and assist.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning, members. I will only be taking the members through the aspects that were raised on the market section of the proposed RTT amendment. The members asked that we be explicit in the market section on what NERSA is concerned about by the proposed amendment. Closure of the refineries has created uncertainty in the petroleum industry as a whole, while also raising concerns in terms of security of supply, affordable access for third parties, customers, and the promotion of competition. Competition in the industry is already relatively low, and various factors such as vertical agreements between oil firms, the petroleum pipelines infrastructure, coordination between oil firms, costs and transparency issues contribute to this. Therefore, strategic barriers to entry, particularly for non-integrated participants, may be raised by this amendment. We therefore recommend or advise that with the changing landscape, constraints to the introduction of alternative sources of supply, routes to markets, and access by third parties to existing infrastructure needs to be reviewed, monitored, and enforced to curb the barriers to entry and participation that may be raised as a result of this amendment. It's also important to highlight that the tariff methodologies approved or recently approved by NERSA for setting and approving as well as for the storage and loading facilities and pipelines, they have been reviewed considering the market structure of the petroleum industry in order to ensure that sustainable development of the efficiency adjustment factor and consideration of volume rules are included. Another point the members requested us to look into was to outline what the situation is prior to this amendment and post this amendment. The storage market is essentially dominated by the oil majors, as majority of the licensed petroleum infrastructure in the provinces is owned and operated by them, and only a few or only a handful of new entrants own and operate storage facilities. According to the licensee database, as at the 31st of December 2021, Engen currently owns and operates 52.8% of the total licensed design capacity. It's important to highlight that this is the stats for storage facilities individually owned and operated by oil majors. This particular amendment will increase capacity owned and operated by Engen to 62%. It's important to highlight that this is not new capacity that will be added to the market. However, it is capacity that will be changed from the manufacturing license, which is governed by the DMRE, to capacity that is now being moved to be operated under the NERSA license. Therefore, these stats also exclude a large amount of capacity, which is about 10 million cubic meters, that is jointly owned and operated by the oil majors, and capacity used by oil majors that is owned by independent storage operators such as VOPEC terminals and Bidvest tank terminals. We also reviewed a merger that was proposed in 2006, and at the time, the tribunal had highlighted that pre the merger, Engen controls what is by a significant margin the largest petrol station network in the country. At the time of that merger also, Engen has had a powerful position in the downstream retail markets, both through sales of its branded service stations as well as its industrial commercial market. It may seem that the capacity that will be controlled by Engen is going to increase by this proposed merger, but it's also important to focus on the fact that it's not capacity that is new, it's capacity that has always been operated by Engen, just under a different dispensation. Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if Peladi is back online and able to continue with her presentation.
I am back online. I just wanted clarity if I'm audible.
We can hear you. Please proceed from where you left off.
Okay, I think at the time I was talking about the pipelines that we're proposing to add as part of this amendment, and I was referring to the fact that the structure of the license is basically in line with the way that we are addressing the legacy issues that are linked to some of the combined licenses. And linked to this was the question on whether Section 4 of the Act empowers NERSA to treat or process this amendment that we have done it. And here, Chairperson, our response is that even though Section 4 is signed 23 and 24 of the Act, which empowers NERSA to amend and revoke licenses that are issued, I believe, Chairperson, here that LAS colleagues can provide further clarity as may be required. Raised regarding mainly the environmental aspects, we revisited Section 20 of our Act, which outlines the framework within which we may impose license conditions. We found that we can only incorporate the health, safety, and environmental standards by referencing them in terms of other legislations. And this we had already done in the proposed license conditions. So the actual conditions actually states that the licensee must also comply with all other relevant legislations, which included the OSH Act in terms of health and safety, and the NEMA Act in terms of environmental, which falls under Department of Environmental, Forestry and Fisheries. Yeah. So essentially, our license conditions are clear that the licensee is not exempted from compliance with other applicable legislations, and as well, Chair, that Engen is with engagements with the Department of Labor as well on these aspects. So what we will do from our side is monitor their progress in terms of our compliance monitoring activities. In the workshop, Ms. Simani had also raised concerns on the decommissioning after useful life. So here, Chair, in terms of our own regulations, in terms of Regulation 9, it stipulates that the licensee must submit a plan for approval by NERSA in the event that the license activity is being abandoned. And some of the information required here includes that confirmation of an EIA, the decommissioning activities, and the financial security for purposes for rehabilitating that land. But Chair, these matters are being handled by our Petroleum Tariffs Department on a case-by-case basis, and for land rehabilitation project. And this aspect will also be addressed as part of the tariff application for this facility once the amendment is approved. Mr. Zvanda had also requested clarity on whether the findings of the refinery incident were finalized. Here, Chairperson Engen indicated that the KZN EDTA has not closed out the directive, stating that the closeout is pending the closure of the root cause analysis, which is being done by the Department of Employment and Labor, which will also not conclude the matter without the investigation report from another third-party consultant, which is currently still pending. So the answer to this question, Mr. Sibanda, is that the matter is currently still pending. There was also clarity sought on the status of the tanks that are targeted for either preservation or mothballing, and the relevant timelines associated with such. So the feedback we have received from Engen here is that the tanks currently hold the product from refinery previous service, and only once that product is sold will they determine the usability for product change of the tanks, and this will take roughly from 3 to 6 months up to 2 years, and hence why Engen still required them to be licensed. But here, Chair, Engen will continue to update NERSA on the status of these tanks. Mr. Gumede also posed a question on whether the other licensed infrastructure projects that NERSA has approved will come into fruition with Engen converting to a storage facility. Here, without divulging some of the commercially sensitive information, Chair, that was provided by Engen, but we do know that the repurpose programs that were highlighted as part of the petroleum storage. This also links to why Engen is still being necessary for other activities in line with some of the introductions of the Petroleum Products Act. So this facility will be one of those that holds dual jurisdiction licenses, and Engen does have a couple of such licenses. On the aspect of certainty on the redeployment of employees, we only have confirmation from Engen that employees have been deployed across the wider Engen business, and Department of Labor has been consulted as well. So here we will undertake a process, Chair, to verify this part of our to verify this as part of our compliance monitoring activities as well. Overall, Chairperson, through the updated document that we have commenced working on, we have added sections that outline our limitations in terms of scope, and we've also added statements where we clearly convey our discomfort where nothing can be done in terms of our powers of NERSA. I think that concludes the Chairperson. Our recommendation is still that we approve the amendment as applied for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Sibala and Madam Munyebode. Members, by show of hands, any questions, comments, and guidance, noting that this matter has also been workshopped and responses to the workshop has been also included as part of the presentation of the item. Mr. Kumede, I note your hand. You may come to the fore.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just 3 comments, questions. The first one is more maybe a suggestion, Chair, that hearing what the colleagues have indicated, that the power plants are not treated as auxiliary to this tax. Can we therefore request that these be applied for separately, so that we avoid this issue of issuing a combined license of something that has got where you know, for storage we approve tariffs, for power plants we set tariffs. So because those are treated differently, I think there is merit in those being handled separately. But I think from what I'd understood anyway was that these power plants and cannot applied for separately so that's the first comment, Chair, or request. The second request is one, and I think for me, I tend to link this item 12 and item 11 in terms of the capacity that is being, you know, if you like, added, although it was always there in terms of refinery tanks and food storage tanks, but is that seeing that this capacity, is there a need? And perhaps I don't know, to Engen as well, that perhaps the road and rail need for additional capacity to evacuate the product coming out of, which would now be stored in these tanks, or is it deemed necessary or adequate that all the product will still be evacuated through the existing handling structure, which was intended or which was used to connect it to the 3,400 cubes, now that the capacity has been expanded. But I would the evacuation of product from these tanks. Yes, it might be connected to the Transnet pipelines, so that evacuation route still exists. And by the way, hence my concern around those pipelines that are linked to these tanks. But nonetheless, if they are not deemed to be auxiliary, they are not deemed to be auxiliary, it's okay. But nonetheless, should we therefore not look and say, if there's going to be a greater use of these tanks as finished products, should we not make sure that these products can be evacuated from them? My last question, or my comment, Chairperson, just wanted to leave to again put this on record. I'm still uncomfortable, Chair, with amending a licensed activity which was supposed to be 3,000. The current licensed activity is 3,400 cubes. But we are adding 450,000 cubes. Yes, the tankage already.
Mr. Sibanda, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I'm not sure how we're going to treat this submission because I still don't have the document that addresses the comments and the input that was given to the colleagues, despite the verbal presentation that we have received. But I would have loved to see that amended document just to have a look at what has been done. I still have a question, Chair, on the legal aspect of amending a single license into a combined license. And I do take note of the proposal by Mr. Gumede that perhaps we should remove the pipelines and those should be applied for separately, which I would support. But I didn't get the legal basis, and it's something that I would have loved to see, to say what is the legal basis of us amending a license and making it a combined license through an amendment process, because as I had indicated, for me, section 23 or 24 that talks about amendment of a license talks about the conditions, amending the conditions of a license. So I would, yeah, I didn't see that part, and the verbal explanation also did not touch on that. But secondly, also the part on the market analysis, I think we had proposed that section really should be based on some form of comprehensive market analysis, because to pronounce someone as being dominant, you don't just say it, but it should be based on some kind of comprehensive analysis. And the last time the team had indicated that they do not have the information to do that, and so I'm still a bit concerned about that section, person. But yeah, by and large, I don't have a problem with the overall recommendation. For me, I think it's just those aspects that needed some tightening, and to say that I'm not sure how those have been attended to in the absence of a revised document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sibanda. Madam Maseti.
Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity. I would like to start where Mr. Sibanda ended, in the sense that, Chairperson, we spent our time as members of the energy regulator reading the documents, making input, providing guidance, and it seems that our guidance gets ignored. So I will have a difficulty in supporting a decision when we provided guidance and that guidance is completely ignored and that is not addressed at all. So I would like to start there, Chairperson, that I will have a difficulty in supporting a recommendation that doesn't show how we actually arrived at it. We might not have a problem with the decision that is required, but you don't just go to a decision without showing how you have arrived at that decision. And I do have an issue because in the specific application, there's a concern raised by stakeholders to say that with this change that is requested, they are worried about the potential abuse of dominance. As a start, as a regulator, to try and independently verify whether indeed there is that dominance, number one, and number two, whether there will be a possibility or potential to abuse that dominance, so that then we can deal with the concern raised by a stakeholder. And it's actually their constitutional right, by the way, because when they raise issues with the body, the public body cannot ignore addressing the input and the views of the stakeholder, whether you agree or you don't agree, but you must show how you are addressing the issue of worrying about dominance. And here we have not addressed that. And for me, it's a starting point. We will have a challenge in ignoring issues that are raised, and how do we then get to a decision? So it is also stated even by the team itself, where it talks about what are the issues that are quite controversial and issues that are quite sensitive, that the analysis must go to the core and address them. They have raised the issue of impact on competition, and dominance is a starting point to then assessing that that state of competition, whether competition is weak or competition is strong. And that has not been addressed, because the dominance aspect comes before that kind of an assessment is done. And I do have a problem with that, Chairperson, and I will find it very difficult to support a decision which does not address core issues that are right there. And Chairperson, the other thing that I wanted to come to, you know, we're talking about different markets here. We may talk about the associated markets and all of that. The tanks that we are talking about, we have said that some of these tanks were in the manufacturing level of the business. And now they are moving away from the manufacturing level. They enter another market, which is your storage market. They're being converted into a storage market. It is new capacity. It is new capacity added in the storage market. So because of that capacity added in the storage market, we will need to check what the impact is going to be now, because you're increasing their size in the storage market. And again, they make reference to the tribunal's decision in the retail level of the market. So depending how you look at your storage, whether your storage market is in the downstream and then there is associated market at the retail level, and what then happens, because then there's a shift, there's a tip or from the manufacturing side, you're getting to your downstream on storage, and then now maybe it will strengthen that market at the retail level, or even strengthening their position at the storage level. And even when you look at that increase of its size and its capacity and maybe dominance at the storage level, you will look at, if the market were to be looked at narrowly as the Durban area, what harm will that make? Or will that harm still be a problem, that potential harm, if the market were to be broadened to be the KZN area? If it's a KZN area, so that we don't confine it to the Durban area where perhaps Engen could have some super dominance or substantial dominance or substantial market power. If we broaden it to the KZN area, would we still be concerned about substantial market power if we broaden it? Yes or no? And if it's yes, we should have some information that says that this can be constrained by import competition and the facilitation of investment in that area. And that, again, the facilitation of investment will also depend on the remaining demand in the KZN as a regional market for these products. Or the Durban area, I don't know the scope of their geographic market here. I mean, they should be able to tell how easy it is to sort of have that competitive process within the regional KZN area. It could be that it is quite easy. The products, if one is sitting in Durban, can get it in another area somewhere in KZN still. So there is that competitive process that one should not be worried about. I don't know, but because we have not been told. So if we were to be told, we can easily guide there to say we are quite comfortable that indeed maybe the market should not be looked at as a Durban area, so that maybe the concern and the problem therefore is not confined there. It will be a little bit be neutralized. Therefore, maybe let's adopt a market that is a regional market, a regional KZN market, because the way that we hear how the storage works in the regional a KZN market, it seems there's a competitive process, effective competitive process that is taking place. And on that basis, we can comfortably conclude that the market, the geographic market, is the KZN. Even with that guidance, they are still not taking just those key points that they can put here on record, and then we can assist them on record, even if they're going to enhance. If we can be told on that competitive process at the regional level, then we can be in a position to guide them to say, you can phrase it in this way, and therefore we can comfortably say that we take the resolution that we're comfortable that the geographic level of the market is the KZN area. Even with the product market, we might not even need to define it narrowly as the storage, so that the storage tanks for petrol are very different from the storage tanks for diesel, because you cannot substitute one with another, or one for the paraffin and with the other. So you might not be able to do that. But we might not even go to that narrow extent. We might even say that, because it is allowed to say that we need not conclude on a narrow a market definition, a product market definition. We are still saying that yes, there will be a concern, but we can leave it at the level where we say that the market that is of concern here is the storage of petroleum products, including on the petrol, the diesel, and all of that. However, put the statement, however, we are not saying that the storage assets for petrol are substitutable with the storage assets for diesel or the storage assets for paraffin. You put that statement to conclude and you leave it there. It is well acceptable, even if it were to be challenged by anybody. You leave it there. Why is it difficult when we've provided that kind of a guidance, even in writing, and it gets ignored? You're putting the points that can assist, and you're done with the relevant market. You then get into the market shares that will indicate dominance and or market power. And I've already stated that there are two things that can indicate where market power can be exercised by engine. It is the volumes, which will indicate the sales, or the capacity itself. Then you decide in this market what gives somebody some edge and the capacity to limit others. Is it the throughput for volumes, or is it the sales of that? So that's all. And then you calculate that information, you get the market shares. Then you are able to say that with regard to the capacity or even the sales volumes, then we don't think that engine will be in a position to exercise market power. Just those things, straightforward, Chairperson. It doesn't need anything. You do that assessment. But it just did not happen. And it becomes a problem. And you address that issue of competition. You address that concern by the stakeholders. And it's just not there, Chairperson.
Thank you for your input, members. Appreciated. I think
it's as easy as that. I wrote it down. I circulated that information because.
No, I thought you had ended talking, but seemingly you got cut. For
a few seconds, Chairperson.
Yeah. You may proceed. Just
proceed, sir. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I'll wrap up, Chair. So I got cut because of the instability of the internet connection. So Chairperson, those are the issues for me, and I just did not see. And we also said we can assist if we are required to, and it's just that simple. Even in the way that we've put those issues of dominance, how you can conclude on it, and the market definition itself, and however that has been completely ignored. So. And my other issue, Chairperson, is that it is a new capacity when it comes to the market that we're supposed to include, because you must assess the impact of adding that capacity. So you can't say that is not new capacity. And in fact, it's also coming from the manufacturing sector of this market. Now, moving forward, Chairperson, I think we do need to address our licensing approach here, Chairperson. And so that we can all understand, if you add this substantial capacity, that's number one. And number two, even the approach of licensing it, if it was not a combined license, and now we amend and make it a combined license, is that permissible? And in what way, if you read the section, that it gives us powers to amend a license? If it kinds of change it and make it sort of a new license altogether, and we change it to this extent, the extent of the capacity, number one, if the license itself was a smaller capacity. And then number two, the approach in terms of moving away from a separate, a standalone licensed facility, and we go to a combined facility. Those two things for me, Chairperson, I would like them to be addressed even as an approach that we have taken. The last point that I would like to make, Chair, that I will also request that it be addressed, irrespective of the fact that we try to go deep into what happened in the DOE or DMRE, whether they actually licensed or there's a record that they've licensed these storage tanks or not. It's neither here nor there, Chairperson. The fact of the matter is that if we don't have jurisdiction to license tanks for the manufacturing sector, we simply do not have that jurisdiction. Now, when we give ourselves this jurisdiction to say that if something ought to have been licensed elsewhere in terms of the legislation that permits another body, now we try to license it by way of amending license conditions without clearing that other jurisdiction that licensed these facilities. For me, it doesn't sit very well, Chairperson. What do we have now? Because this license, these tanks, they fell within that other jurisdiction.
Are you done, ma'am?
And how do we bring them to our jurisdiction through amendment?
You seem to be breaking, or it's just from my side, but you seem to be breaking. Oh, thanks. Then if you're done, I would then would like to take off from what Madam Masset has done. Tim, if you may just assist me with one particular aspect, because normally as NERSA, we would deal with what the legislation empowers us to do and leave the other work for other authorities to deal with them. In this case, we've got the Department of Energy as a regulator also in terms of the Petroleum Pipelines Act, with petroleum prices as well as licensing of manufacturing, wholesaling, and retailing activities in the country. And therefore, although in terms of manufacturing, there is no licensing of individual components of a manufacturing facility, but it is clearly understood that the tanks we're dealing with are falling under manufacturing. There is a manufacturing license because those activities that were already and being undertaken prior to the enactment of the Petroleum Pipelines or coming into operation of the Petroleum Pipelines Act were deemed to be licensed. So we take it that this falls under a licensed facility. As to what is the way to deal with it, because it means it's falling under that. Just want to know whether there was any confirmation from the department with the release of this facility as no longer being licensed as a manufacturing facility, or at least a clear undertaking of the release of these under that dispensation. or jurisdiction of the Petroleum Pipelines Act, but Petroleum Products Act, I mean. So if you can just help me with that. And then secondly, I note that all the documents that you've provided, I hope by now the document that is responding to the questions raised during the workshop, as Madam Massetti and Mr. Sibanda were lamenting non-responsiveness or not seeing a response, but because I have fortunately had some at sight at that response. If we can just circulate that even now to ensure that members are aware that you did take time to respond. It was not a question of ignoring ignoring their inputs made during the workshop. I just want to clarify one thing that is linked to dominance, so that we're able to like at least deal with it, because I see the issue of dominance and the issue of the pipelines not being auxiliary and therefore needing to be applied separately. That is the second one. Two is one of that there's just to answer if there's additional capacity to evacuate the product from the tanks or the existing infrastructure would suffice. And then three, which is an issue that four, which is an issue that legally can be done about in terms of adding 450 to 3,000 cubic meter capacity. That if it was the other way around, there would be some comfort, but this is posing a challenge. And then the last one being that you've got capacity. You've got a combined license being you're amending into a combined license. That issue that was discomfort about. But let me talk to the issue of dominance just briefly in how I understand it. So before the team responds, from where I'm standing, when I looked at this, is that you've got manufacturing. For argument's sake, let's take this facility sitting in the middle. There is manufacturing, then there is storage of product coming out of the manufacturing process. And then that product then goes to what is traditional storage tanks, right? And then what happened now is that the manufacturing part is killed or was just taken out. Instead of manufacturing, you now are importing. And when you import, then it still goes to these tanks. But now, in terms of the nature of the product, around purities and all of that, and the use of the tank is different. But all that you have done, actually, you have substituted manufacturing with importation, and you have moved these tanks from inside the battery limits of a refinery to make them stand alone, because they were part of the tank farm. And now, instead of being the tank farm inside the battery limits, they're like a tank farm outside of the battery limits, and therefore falling into the storage market that Madam Massetti is talking about. The market, on its very nature, is that it is national. You can't just look at the Durban area. In fact, it is even broader than that. If one looks at the BLNS countries, the Botswana, Lesotho, if one looks at the equality of misery, to say that you shouldn't say because you are closer to the refinery, you are going to get product, and a person far away from the refinery is not going to get product. If there's a shortage, it should be shared amongst, without any geographical bias. So we're talking here about a national market for argument's sake, and not necessarily looking at Durban. So the issue of dominance is that we here, for all intents and purposes, there's legally change to, or even no change to Engen's position, because also, as things stand, Engen has got more market share than what they were able to produce from the refinery, because here the market they've got, it's a national market with these companies having product swaps and hospitality agreements, such that you can be going to an engine service station, but you buy a product that actually comes from what was manufactured by Sasol instead of an engine refinery. So that for me is what it's the understanding of the primarily the substitution of manufacturing with importation, which for all intents and purposes is very undesirable in a country that wants to create jobs. But there's little you can do. You can't force someone to continue manufacturing at a loss, or to even if they are not losing, you can't force someone to continue engaging in a business that is no longer willing to engage in. So that is the what must be understood in this process. And then also that when then we look at this process, is then to look at the fact that once you rely more on imports, you need to have more search capacity, so that if there are problems with the product coming from the high seas, there could be pirates, there could be rough seas, there could be a lot of risk in terms of getting the product into the market. And therefore, you need to have buffer capacity or search capacity that you create. So for all intents and purposes, the storage facility must be actually ramped up when you are now relying on imports. Otherwise, you run the risk of having shortages just because of some challenges. If there's pirate activity, or if there's some rough seas, or there's been any problem, even the geopolitics could impact heavily on a country. But this is not a matter for the regulator per se. It's a matter that needs to be dealt with by the policymaker, being the DMRE by and large. It will also talk to the issue of the import and export regulation, guidelines or regulations. It will also talk to the issue of strategic stocks holding, because you have to shift away from storing crude oil and store more of finished product, because of the capacity challenges that you have crude that will not be able to process and get the finished product anyway. I will leave it at that, because this we've already taken too long on this, considering that we've got a long agenda today. So, Tim, if you can just feed in on what I've just indicated, and then you talk to these issues that I think there are about 5 issues, very succinctly. So over to you, Madam Toy and your team.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that input. Maybe we should start by requesting Last to come in and address the legal issues. Then Mr. Untit will also come and talk to the issues of the discussion of engine with the department in terms of the licensing, and also in terms of the combined license. Maybe Mr. Riba or Mr. Lukele will then come in and try and clarify that. Thank you. Mr. Mbedzi, may you please come in?
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm going to come in, Chairperson, on the issue of Mr. Sibanda with regard to the legal basis for converting a single license into a combined license. It's true, Chairperson, that when we grant the license, Chairperson, the only section that has got license condition, we look at section 20, and that is true to what Mr. Sibanda has said. But Chairperson, it's the section 19.3, it gives energy regulator power to issue either of both, of single, of combined licenses. But then that kind of combination of licenses shouldn't be operation licenses and construction licenses. It can only be one, construction license or loading licenses or the similar facilities, or operation licenses on loading and the storage, only for the operation. But then you cannot combine construction and operation in one. That's one. And secondly, it means if you have one single license that you need to combine with the other licenses to make it a combined licenses, you can do it, but obviously with appropriateness and the discretion that needs to be exercised there. And of course, each and every case should be dealt with on its own merits on this issue, because it is a discretion that needs to be looked at. But then that you cannot take a single license on construction and combine it with another license of construction. That wouldn't work in terms of Section 19.3, Chairperson. Thank you.
Please just keep going as indicated by the M, then I can give members an opportunity to maybe have follow-up questions. Please. We don't have the luxury of time.
Maybe Mr. Bukele can just come in to talk to the combined license to follow up on what has been indicated by Lars.
Oh, thank you, ma'am, and good morning, members, and to everyone. Yes, in terms of combined licenses, I just wanted to refer to the recent decision of the energy regulator on OTMS, where we dealt with a similar case where OTMS, they applied to include a pipeline, and that was approved as such, and it was treated as pipeline, and that pipeline served the same purpose as this one, that is, or these ones that are being sought to be included. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make reference to that decision.
Thank you, Ms. Monjovede. I saw you wanted to come in. I'm not sure if Mr. Untid is still online.
Mr. Ntanzi, I can see your hand is up.
Yeah, Chair, thanks. I think there's one aspect which I think should be addressed that Ms. Masset has raised, the issue of dominance in terms of their competition. I don't know whether Mr. Chogwe can help to address it. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chogwe.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, members, and good morning, colleagues. Indeed, I think from the workshop, Chairperson, to today, I think we hear actually very nice principles about competition, Chairperson. But I think from the legal point of view, we just want to maybe sound a word of caution, Chairperson, to say when it comes to competition and all its other many aspects, the energy regulator, the powers that it has, Chairperson, when it comes to Petroleum Pipelines Act, it's to promote competition. Chairperson, that promotion of competition is just scratching the surface type of power, Chairperson, in the sense that we just have to encourage it and not further than that, because the issue of competition, Chairperson, it's a sole province of the Competition Commission. They don't only promote it, they promote it, they maintain it. The other things that they do, they evaluate it. Those are the things that they get into. They evaluate it, they investigate it, they control it. And when you actually go against those principles, they punish you heavily. Our worry, Chairperson, from the legal point of view is that whilst we indeed have to do the market analysis and try to get some signs whether the competition will be promoted, we have to be very careful that when we start picking up those, we must actually either deal with the applicant licensee, and if it's not agreeable, it's not our province. We have to put everything to the Competition Commission for them to do all these important things. But we are an energy regulator. The type of things that we do, they can impact on the competition, but it's not our province, Chairperson. We are scared that if every single application is going to be taking this route in terms of getting into the nitty-gritties of competition, I doubt if actually the colleagues in PPR can actually do a competition analysis. Even if they were to do it, Chairperson, we don't think we have the power to do that. We have the power to do the scratch the surface type type of analysis. That's maybe the market analysis. And as soon as that is being done, we can pick up, if we pick up any issues of competition which are very, very serious, Chairperson, we have to talk to the right authorities. Our word of warning, Chairperson, is that we should make sure that we don't overstep our authority and pronounce on things that we don't pronounce, because if we pronounce on competition analysis, Chairperson, and the Competition Commission does that, we will always come second, because it's not our job. Our job is to regulate energy and promote competition. Lastly, Chairperson, had the legislature wanted us to do all these things, Chairperson, the legislator would have said so. If he leaves us with the word only, just promote competition, and he leaves, he says, do just that. But with the Competition Commission, he didn't leave them like that. He said, when it comes to competition, I want you to investigate it. I want you to evaluate it. I want you to control it. I want you to maintain it. In case someone is uncompetitive, I want you to punish it. We don't have all this in Chairperson. We must also just promote them. Our view is that whilst we have to do analysis in competition, Chairperson, we must be careful that we shouldn't go overboard. But if you pick up anything that says there's something wrong, let's actually pack it and give it to those people who can pronounce on it. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Chopra. I not made Mr. Kumete, and then I'll go to Peladi. Mr. Kumete.
Chairperson, thank you. Chair, I think the team is going to be moving away from this issue of this combined license and this amendment, and I'm uncomfortable with it. Chair, personally, I would like to support this amendment. The infrastructure exists. I may have my concerns around taking something which is 3,000 and adding 450,000 on it. However, the infrastructure exists. It's not like we are building new infrastructure, and it may come with its own benefits with all of these challenges, but it may come with its benefits. But what we are saying here, Chairman, justifying something on the back of because the combined license was approved for OTMS, and looking at something here of these activities that were both not licensed before, but we are now being amended and included into a different license because they were not licensed because they were part of manufacturing. I do not believe, Chairperson, that is assisting us to make a decision. My request, Chairperson, is that the analysis should be based on the merit of this case. And the merit of this case, for instance, from where I'm sitting, I was also not convinced. I'm still not convinced that this pipeline system is independent of the storage facilities, that it can be used by somebody else, and that for me, they all form within the same precinct and therefore should have been considered to be auxiliary. But if they are not considered to be auxiliary for the reasons given, for us to arrive at a decision, can we be assisted, Chairperson, please?
Mr. Kumete, I fully concur with you there, because I was of the view that this is for intents and purposes, as things stand now, it is they are auxiliary. Because of the distances, there could be someone maybe says, I want to interconnect for that the remote chance of that happening, and therefore would have to reconsider then, and first of all, deem them not to be auxiliary then, before you can be able to allow that interconnection. And my understanding also being that there is currently no one else that is going to use these pipelines. Outside of these pipelines, they are not of use. So making them then really auxiliary. So if you can first of all talk to the issue of them being auxiliary, because if you're talking of the battery limits now, it's no longer have the refinery as the battery limits. You've got a storage facility, and it's outside maybe of the battery limit of the storage facility. But there are tanks in Wentworth, there are tanks at Island View. Then you've got a linking of these as well as going to the Transnet pipeline. So let me understand. Let us understand that the merits. Why it would be best to still proceed with them as combined vis-a-vis not having them combined, having them separate as pipeline and TEM. Let's first of all talk to that. Yes, we understand there's a precedent, but that precedent had its own merits. So talk to the merits here, and maybe you can relate them to that and cite that as a precedent. Please. Mr. Lukele, maybe in the team before I get to you, Madam Nibod.
So sorry, I think Mr. Riba. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, through you. I hope my explanation will answer the question here, but this whole package was actually proposed in the combined licenses as to how we're going to repackage this, or propose that they are repackaged. Initially, they were linked to the refinery and they said pipelines, and we said they are part of the refining process. But now that aspect of refining is out of the window, is not there anymore. The view was that these pipelines are now standalone pipelines, which can be defined as like the term pipeline that is licensable, that requires a tariff and all sorts. The term auxiliary links it to a storage facility. And that cannot be, because, as it was said, they traverse outside of the premises of the storage facility, which is located where the refinery was, the perimeter. Then outside of that, they traverse outside, so they cannot be linked with that. It's the same as the one that comes from the STF going to the refinery. The one that was also recently approved, similar to OTMS. They're not within the storage facility, not within the same area. They go out. Hence, they formed, they were in the same license, but as combined license, part of the combined license, but not as part of a storage facility, here referred to as an auxiliary pipeline. They are a separate license within the same license, a combined license, which will require their own tariff, not that is the one that's combined with the storage. The storage will have its own tariff, and these pipelines will have their own tariff. And in that way, it will be easily be manageable, because previously, as in the Island View license, they said a storage system and pipeline system, and they lumped everything together, which was impossible.
Mr. Riba, sorry
Yes.
to interject. Just
Yes, sir.
in the excess of time, as things stand now, based on your responses on all of you, is that these pipelines, as they are traversing outside of the battery limits of the storage facility, and there is a chance that they could be used by someone else in terms of tying in. Hence, they cannot be deemed to be combined with the tanks. In other words, they are not
auxiliary to the tanks,
and therefore they must have two separate licenses. Am I right?
No. I mean, we cannot say they're auxiliary. When you say they're auxiliary, you say they're part of storage. In that way, somebody cannot connect there. But when you say that they're independent pipelines within a combined license, that's something different. Which means they are separate pipelines, but within a combined license for storage and pipelines. Like we did with Sunrise. Sunrise is a storage facility and a marine loading with a pipeline. So those are two separate facilities within one license.
Again, sorry there. Again, just for progress sake. So we've got situations where we've got a combined license in terms of storage and pipelines that are auxiliary. Then there is a combined, when it comes to operation, you can have a combined license consisting of independent storage and independent
pipelines,
such that you can have a separate tariff for the pipeline and another tariff for the storage. And hence, in this instance, we've got the latter. Just to get that clear, that one.
Yes,
is this the case?
Yes, in the case of Avidia, I mean,
no. Let's talk here.
Yes, let me just explain. The auxiliary part in terms of Sunrise, that pipeline is auxiliary to the loading, but it forms part of the loading. In case and then not the storage. So there's two facilities there within that combined license. Is the loading facility with the auxiliary pipeline as allowed for in the Act, and a storage facility. Two activities within one combined license. This one, we propose that storage facility and pipelines, two activities within one combined licenses, which can be treated separately in terms of tariff applications. This one will be set, this one will be approved. Hence, the whole issue of the combined licenses, which was explained by Mr. Benzi, that combined licenses, we don't mean construction and operation. We combine in the activities, I mean the facilities themselves.
Okay, thank you. Let me hear Mr.
Thank you.
Mete.
Chairperson, just for guidance here, and I think if the for the sake of progress, I'm still requesting one thing. If these are deemed not to be in terms of the definition of what tanks are, because tanks by their very nature can have pipelines to interconnect the tanks. But if these pipelines are not deemed to be part of that, and they're not deemed to be auxiliary to that system, then clearly for us to make a decision, please, my plea is that can they take them out of this application, and they should be applied for separately in terms of the pipeline, because they clearly would have to have their own condition of license. They are separate from these tanks. So that's what I'm just simply asking, Chair. Otherwise, we will not going to progress on this, because as I'm indicating, Chair, personally, I'm happy to support the amendment with all of the reservations that we have in terms of the tanks. But the minute you combine them with something else that presents its own challenges, then I'll have a challenge to actually support this. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Mrs. Vanda?
Chairperson, I think I'm covered by Mr. Gumede. Whilst I hear what Mr. Riva has said, for me, I think the question still remains whether we can amend a separate license to make it a combined one. But I will support the proposal by Mr. Gumede. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Unti, let me first of all go to Mr. Madam Masetti, then I'll go to Mr. Unti quickly, and then we can at least make a decision on this one and proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson. I was worried that you seem to be ignoring my hand, which I raised before the other members. But anyway, thank you for the opportunity. Chairperson, I was going to raise an issue about, because the way we're going, I was very worried because we are live and there was a lot of confusion even for the members that are required to make a decision. And we were not so sort of focused on the issues that are raised, some of which the team has not responded to. I was very worried in the way that we're proceeding in the meeting, and we're more like we're in a workshop mode. So I was going to suggest that perhaps to find each other, we may need to just close the session and so that we can deal with all of the other clarifications that we need to come up with, so that in the meeting, at least we're much more focused and we can get to the decision. So, Chairperson, I think it's important for a focused discussion that we are very clear what has been tabled before us here, because this issue of the combined license, and this is what we are required to take a decision on, and the team members themselves, they have different explanation. For me, it is a concern, because it confuses us, and it makes it very difficult to find each other and reach a conclusion for a decision. So that has been my concern, at least from my side, as I'm following and the observations that I've made. So that was my concern, Chairperson. And then lastly, Chair, I think the issue of us, the extent to which we can promote competition, it is very clear that we take an ex ante approach, which is one that says any economic regulator around the world is required to put conditions that are conducive to competition through your licensing, through your tariffs, so that you facilitate investment, and through third-party access. It is very simple. We are given those tools, and those are the tools that they are there so that we can prevent any harm, because we are right at the forefront. We are the, we are the regulator, where we need to put these things there, and then the other authorities, competition authorities, they have an exposed role, and therefore they will come later after the economic regulator has put all of the relevant conditions in place to allow competition. So we do that through licensing. So we must not be confused as to our extent. So to the extent that stakeholders raised concerns, and they've got a constitutional right to raise concerns. Mr. Mkhize, I think there's a sound from your side, Chairperson. As I'm speaking, it just interferes with the it gives the feedback. So my emphasis, the point of emphasis, is that once a stakeholder looking at the market in the way that the market is going to be served, and the potential harm that they say, we foresee this harm. Therefore, regulator, take this concern into consideration when you take a decision. My point is that you cannot ignore.
Madam Asante, sorry, just pardon me. What I want us to do, so you can be able to move in the same vein that you have alluded to the issue of us being, kind of having some kind of confusion on some of these things. I'm saying, let's proceed in terms of being focused. We deal with this one issue, we put it aside. The team had not responded to everything. When the team responded to the issue that was raised, then there were follow-up questions, which resulted into us moving in this particular direction. I would rather say I'm going to make sure that we get to the competition issue, as you have already alluded, after the team has also provided a comprehensive response to it. So now let us just deal with this issue of combined license and move away from it. Then we're gonna come to the committee. I'll make sure that I give an opportunity to then talk to these things. If you just indulge me, please, on this one. So my request that let us just conclude on the issue of the combined license vis-a-vis separate licenses, operation license for the pipelines and the storage facility. So I'll come back to you on this one. May we talk to the issue of the combined license. Martin, make a comprehensive response to that together with Munyebadi. Are you going to talk to the combined license issue?
Yes, I wanted to address that, Chair.
Morning.
Okay.
Morning, Chair. Apologies, frustrating with the load shedding. I hope I'm audible. I'm in and out of the meeting. In terms of combined licenses, it's not like the staff is conflicting. There's different considerations. The one was this was part of a decision of PPS to clean out this license. The other two licenses being processed. The Act allows us the energy regulator, to issue combined or separate licenses. I'm not a lawyer, but they've got the discretion in terms of what the Act says. I can't speak on behalf of Engine, but this was discussed in the pre-licensing meetings, whether they issued two separate licenses or not. I don't think there should be a problem. And maybe to address the concern about the amendment that Mr. Sibanda had and other members, my proposal is then that the regulator LAS can confirm has got the discretion to issue then a license for the pipeline separately and the storage activities separately, which will include the gantries, the road gantries and the rail gantries, which is part of that. So in terms of this matter, that is my answer, Chairman and members.
Right. I would just like then to get from last, noting that the application is before us, can we be in a position to then issue a separate licenses for these, despite them being applied in the manner that they've been applied for? Just that, quickly. Last, please. Is Mbeti not in?
My apology, Chairperson. Some network issues. I couldn't. I was out of the meeting for a second there. My sincere apologies, Chairperson.
Can we then be able to issue a license, two separate licenses, or they must reapply for two separate licenses? I want to talk to the remedy of this situation.
Chairperson, the bottom line, Chairperson, is that if you issue a combined license, you cannot then again topple one license out of the combined one and start to amend it. Because we must realize, Chairperson, that when they say combined licenses, maybe from a layman's point of view, it's not like they are taking 20 licenses and combine them into one. It is simply referring to activities. It means you can have a similar activities, maybe on the construction, similar activities on the facilities, on the construction side, and issue one license. That is what is called combined. It simply means that you are combining activities that under normal circumstances, they can have their own single licenses, all of them, but you are giving one, but on the same category. If it is construction, it's construction. If it's operation, it's operation. Then you cannot then come later then and say you're toppling one out of them, and then start to say, look, I need to amend this one. That wouldn't work, Chairperson. Thank you.
So there's no way that you can have separate licenses issued for this for the pipelines in terms of what they've applied for up to now.
Looking at that again, Chairperson, I think maybe this issue should be explored further, because even though it has been done before, like Mr. Lukele said, there's still an issue of looking not only at the judgment that was the decision that was taken by the regulator before. We need to look at all the facts, all the merits of the matters, Chairperson, so that appropriateness should be then applied, Chairperson. The fact that it has been done before, like it had been alluded to in the meeting, it does not necessarily automatically mean that it can be done again, Chairperson. It simply means the regulator should have a look at the merits and then decide on a very informed ground, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you. Because the way this thing seems now is it's a reapplication for the separate licenses for us then to consider this application properly. I'll give Peladi, you wanted to respond, just a chance there to respond, then I'm going to go to you, members.
Yes, Chairperson, I'm partly covered by what Martin has proposed, but just to bring it together, in concluding, we are now saying, given what our legal experts have said, we are proposing that we approve the amendment for addition of the storage as applied for, but reject the pipelines, because procedurally they would have to apply for those pipelines as a separate line. So we are on the same view there. And then on the aspect of being uncomfortable about adding the quantum of capacity, nothing in our legislation talks to the capacity sizes. So there, Chairperson, we are saying it is the Wentworth facility has a license for storage. That activity is licensed. We are just expanding the capacity in terms of storage. And then I also wanted to respond to the part regarding bringing into our jurisdiction those tanks and the implications of it. Chair, we have, explicitly looked at the tank history maintenance reports and have done summaries of those. And we are comfortable that bringing these into our legislation, those tanks were being maintained as well. And they were being looked at by API inspectors. There was also the aspect with regards to confirmation from the DMRE on the release of the manufacturing license. What we do know is that they do not want to release that manufacturing license because of other implications with biofuels coming in. That biofuel legislation specifically talks to when a storage facility starts blending biofuels, then they will need a manufacturing license. So I think because of that, they want to hold on to that license until that is comes into effect. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy has not released these facilities from their license. In other words, am I right in that? Thank you.
Yes, Chair.
All right. So for me, then they are still tied. If they are still tied, you know, that our approval then would not suffice. I think we're clear with that. From my side, from what I'm hearing, members would correct me if I'm wrong. I am getting that we need to get a reapplication. That's what is coming out now. I'm just summarizing to apply for these two separately. Two, that there should be confirmation that the department has released this tank or is ready to release the tanks, because we cannot have them licensed by both the pipelines as well as the Products Act. But let me hear then for Madam Simane and then Mr. Kumete.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I joined just before 10 because I honestly didn't see the appointment. I think I misdirected it. I think, Chair, you've taken words out of my mouth because I raised my hands when we just needed clarity on the combined licensing, and I had assumed that we were at a point to decide. So I do support. I do support the fact that there has to be two separate applications, one for the pipelines and the other one subject to everything that you've alluded for. And my raising of my hand was that if we are amending, we can't amend something that was never there. So we can't amend. I was under the impression that we can't amend a storage license to be a storage plus a pipeline license. That's why I was raising my hands. But I think you've covered me. So I do support the way forward. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, there are other responses that could be provided, but I think in the interest of time, let's look at the proposal being put forth from my side. As I said, in terms of trying to steer this meeting in the right direction. Can we then move towards returning this to the team to then request Engen to apply for two separate licenses, and that there be confirmation amongst other things that this is no longer licensed under the Petroleum Pipelines Act. This part, just that confirmation, or that there be such a release, and that these other issues that have been raised be dealt with by the team outside of this meeting in the interest of time. But I see Mr. Kumede's hand is up and Madam Nyebadi's hand is up still. Mr. Kumede.
Chairperson, I guess I was raising the issues. And firstly, thank you for the offer from Ms. Nyebodi around the issue of splitting the two applications. But I was ready for me to vote on the decision on the licensing of the storage facility. But the comments that have subsequently come up as well, in the sense that if the manufacturing is still deemed to be, the manufacturing license is still deemed to be valid, and those tanks are therefore still classified as falling outside of the refining license. I am worried, chairperson, for me, that then says, would these tanks not end up being licensed for two activities? Firstly, as a storage refining process. Although it's a deemed license, might never, whatever, because it was issued under Section 2D of the transition arrangement of the Act and not physically issued, doesn't really matter. It was deemed to actually have a license. But for me, the challenge now is that, can I be clarified? Are these tanks still now part of that refining license, or have they been excluded? Because if we grant them a license as a storage facility, yet they are still under are still deemed to be part of that refining of the manufacturing activity. Are we not breaking the law there? Thanks.
Thank you. Martin Peladi, I'll start with Peladi, then Martin. Please be very brief, because I just want to move us to a decision, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Chair,
I just want, okay.
Let me get Mr. Munyabadi, Madam Munyabadi, and then Mr. Untid.
Okay. Chairperson, I just wanted to clarify that what I am recommending now, what we are recommending now, given the legal implications, because the activity for Wentworth is the same, we are recommending that we approve the amendment just for the adding of the tankage, but we reject the pipelines, which will be applied for separately, but we still approve the storage aspect. And then Mr. Untid, I think, wanted to touch on the dual jurisdiction for licenses. Mr. Martin, you can come in.
Yeah, if I may, Chair, 2 weeks ago we did have a meeting with the department officials on exactly this, because this is also relevant for biofuels, which is the new thing that will be happening in from this year, with some companies wanting to implement it. And we had this discussion with the colleagues, albeit at our staff level, on this matter. And their licensing person was of the view that there's nothing precluding having more than one license. We've got the same principle with TMPA issuing licenses, NERSA issuing licenses. So that concept is not clearly explicitly prohibited in the legislation, as long as it's properly ring-fenced. But Mr. Gumede, unfortunately, there seems to be no process of that in terms of the manufacturing license to take out. And the way we've discussed it at staff level is that as long as NERSA explicitly indicate what assets will be part of the NERSA mandate, there shouldn't be any problems. The same principle will apply for manufacturing, where blending sites. Otherwise, all the licenses will have to be revoked, and NERSA will have no mandate. So that principle, albeit at staff level, was agreed upon in taking us forward. So as long as, to conclude, for the tariff application purposes, there must be a proper asset base, which will say these 5 tanks, these 10 pumps, these 2 refractory or whatever equipment will be in this license. I think that is there I do agree. But the process to take something, the legislator never envisaged this situation. So there is no process for removing something from the manufacturing license. But I'll be guided by the people closer in terms of the Petroleum Products Act. I'm giving you the members comfort, but it's not like there will be double licensing. Certain assets documentation, Engen couldn't provide any, but we all agree they deemed license. But everything seems to be part of a manufacturing license. Now certain things, explicit things, will be removed and added to the national license. I hope that clarifies it, Chair and members.
I've got my views on this, but let me give it to Mr. Kumete to comment quickly. I want us to move to a decision, please. We've taken more than an hour now in this.
Chairperson, I must admit, I think I was ready to move on this one, but now I'm not. Chair, I am honestly worried here. We've got licenses, whether it's retail license in terms of site license and whatever licenses that are issued by Department of Mineral Resources, which by definition, if something is a retail license, the fact that there are tanks in that service station, those are explicitly excluded in terms of how the tanks are defined. Not that the tanks don't exist, but they are explicitly excluded by definition. Now, for me, if we can then have a situation where those service station tanks, because you got to think of this broadly. If you can then have a situation where those service station tanks can then be applied for to be licensed under NERSA, but they are still supposed to be excluded in terms of the definition of a site in respect of the Petroleum Products Act, I think we are heading down a very slippery slope here, Chairperson. I think for me, either that license, the refining license, is deemed to be revoked, and therefore these tanks are available and they are supposed to be licensed separately, or if that refinery license, if that refinery still exists and these tanks belong to that refinery, and therefore they are excluded from licensing in terms of Petroleum Pipelines Act. We should be quite clear about that. At this stage, now you've really confused me, colleagues. Honestly, thanks.
Okay, can I just then quickly move to the decision? Just want to get if the members support the decision that this committee has considered this application, and in considering this application has come to the conclusion that to cite for, and that there should be confirmation that these licenses, the facilities for which this activity applied for is concerned should have been released from being part of the manufacturing license issued in terms of the Petroleum Products Act. The team will factor in all the comments that have been put forth during this meeting in addressing the license applications that will then be coming forth from Engine. I hope I'm clear with that. Just want to, by show of hands, if members will support this stance. Thank you, Mr. Kumete. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Madam Simane. And thank you, Mr. Sibanda. I also support that. So on that basis, we're done with item 12. Let's proceed to item 7. Item 6, sorry.
Sorry, Chairperson.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I thought you were going to assist the team so that at least they can understand what they need to do. Remember, they also advised on the issue of auxiliary pipelines. If you could just wrap up so that the decision is also clear for the secretary and so that the team knows very well what aspects they need to couch properly and improve on when they bring the matter, so that it's much easier when we deal with it for the third time. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. The issue of auxiliary is covered in the sense that they are going to apply for 2 licenses, since these pipelines are not auxiliary, they are independent pipelines, and also for optimal regulation, it would be best that the 2 be separated. They also need to deal with the rest of the comments that were put forth, but chief amongst which is the fact that these facilities would have been excluded, should be excluded as part of the PPA, being the Petroleum Products Act, or get a confirmation that they are no longer part of the manufacturing
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to the members and the colleagues. The purpose of this submission is to request the PPS members to approve the tariff of 18.92 cents per litre applied for by EasyGas for its petroleum storage facility in Nelspruit, Mpumalanga province for the period of 1 January 2023 to 31 December 2023, and approve the decision and the reasons for decision document attached to as Annexure A. This is the first tariff application for EasyGas for the enforcement facility, and the tariff applied for by EasyGas is 18.92 cents per litre, and the tariff determined by NERSA is 18.62 cents per litre. The different percentage is 1%. It should be noted that EasyGas stores LPG product in the storage facility, and the assessment of the tariff application starts from page 7 of the decision and the reasons for decision. The differences of the tariff applied for by EasyGas and those determined by NERSA are mainly due to the differences in the networking capital and the work average cost of capital calculated by both parties. The main reasons for the differences are discussed in Annexure A of the RFD, page 21, paragraph 83. The volume analysis also take into account the efficiency adjustment for true volume rules incorporated into the version 5 of the tariff methodology. The team has also independently verified the projected volumes through the monthly volumes submitted to NERSA, which are compared with the latest volumes provided by the licensee. And it also should be noted that the team has noticed a typing error on page 2, paragraph 6 of the cover submission, and it will be enhanced. We therefore recommend that the tariff applied for by EasyGas for the Nelspruit storage facility be approved. Furthermore, we recommend that the PPS approve the decision and the reasons for decision document attached to as Annexure A. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Madam Somi. The recommendation is on page 11 of 11. Any questions, comments, or guidance members? By show of hands. Okay, I don't see any. You alert me, or there's one from Mr. Sibanda. Mr. Sibanda, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I'm happy with the recommendation. I don't have any substantive comments. Maybe just a few corrections on the submission in the RFD. If you go to paragraph 5 of the covering submission, maybe just a correction of the company registration number, but also for clarity, the BEE level for EasyGas. So it's stated as level 3 in this particular application, but in the other applications, it's either a 1 or a 3. So it's a bit not clear to me what's the exact BEE level. And then if you move to paragraph 23, table 4, just the heading there, it shouldn't be comparison of tariffs. I think it's volume projections. And then the table numbering, paragraph 34, table 5 should be table 6. And then the RFD, I think the same comments on the BE level, but also to correct, similarly table 10 should be volume projections. And then the table numbering again, paragraph 82, table 10 should actually be table 12. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm happy with the substance of the application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. A response from the team? Particularly on the level of PE, just to be certain if you do have. Now, if you don't, you have then to reconcile all of these to one level. You can't have a company with two different levels.
Thank you, Chairperson. I am confirming the correct one, Chairperson, but then can I respond maybe towards the end of the meeting? I'm just verifying the details here. Sorry for that. Thank you.
Okay. I take that the rest are enhancements and you duly consider them and factor them in.
Yes, Chairperson, do that.
Thank you. With that, then, it is recommended that the Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee approves the tariff of 18.92 cents per litre applied for by EasyGas for its petroleum storage facility located in Lespruit, Mpumalanga Province for the period 1 January 2023 to 31st December 2023, and that the PPS approves the decision and reasons for decision document attached here to as Annex A, subject to the enhancements that have been put forth during the meeting. By show of hands, members, if you support the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Kumete, Madam Maseti, Mr. Sbanda, Madam Semane. I also do support. This then concludes item 7. We're moving to item 8. It is still an application by EasyGas, P2I Ltd, for its petroleum storage facility located in Bloemfontein, Free State Province.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, may I request that for all EasyGas, can the colleagues just come in without the calling? Mr. Mahlangu, can you please take us through the next one? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Madam Spag.
Thank you, and good morning, colleagues and members. The purpose of this submission is to request the Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee to approve the tariff applied for by EasyGas for its petroleum storage facility at Bloemfontein for the period 1 January 2023 to 31 December 2023, and also approve the decision and reason for decision document attached here to as Annex A. This is a small facility licensed by NESA with the operational capacity highlighted on table 1, page 3. EasyGas applied for a tariff of 19.97 cents per litre for the Bloemfontein facility, and NESA calculated a tariff to be 19.79 cents per litre, which is 1% different. Our analysis outcome for allowable revenue calculations and also the volume analysis are shown from page 6 to page 9. It is therefore recommended that the Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee approve the tariff applied for by EasyGas for the Bloemfontein facility and also approve the decision and reason for decision document attached as Annex A. Thank you.
Thank you. We're dealing with item, I think we jump to item 8. Members, if you can just bear with me there. Looking at item 8, we're gonna go back to item 7. Any questions, comments, guidance, members? I think the others will apply as previously alluded to by Mr. Sbanda. Just ensure that you consistently deal with all these issues in all these applications by tariff applications by EasyGas. Mr. Kumete.
Thanks, Chairperson. I do support the recommendations. I thought I was going to raise this up at the end of all of these tariff applications. Can I just be reminded again, why are we doing this in 1-year applications and not multi-year and not multi-year? Thanks. Thank you.
That's the only question that we have. Can you just talk to that, Madam Ntwa and Madam Bogo?
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll try to respond. We do, Mr. Committee, consider multi-year tariffs for storage and loading facilities and pipelines. However, in this case, the licensee opted to apply for just 1 year. Hence, we are processing this application for 1 year. But then you will note, for instance, with the engine application that is also on the agenda, they applied for a multi-year tariff application. They filed a multi-year tariff application. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you should also emphasize the fact that we have been looking at this whole issue of tariff applications. Those that have got more years without having applied, we have done the proper compliance monitoring and enforcement, part of which also includes encouraging multi-year applications, just for the reduction of the administrative load as well as the regulatory burden. So that should be clear that licenses be encouraged towards that move, because we also do need to move towards multi-year will actually be optimal and more effective. So let's note it from that point of view. Mr. Kumete, I hope your issues addressed. Can just show a thumbs up if you are. Thank you very much, Mr. Kumete. This then concludes the issues raised on this application. The Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee is it is recommended to the Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee to approve the tariff of 19.97 cents per litre for the easy gas storage facility in Bloemfontein for the period 1 January 2023 to 31st December 2023, and that the PPS approves the decision and reasons for decision document attached to as Annexure A, subject to the enhancement based on inputs provided during the meeting. By show of hands, members. Thank you, Mr. Kumete, Madam Maseti. I also support Mr. Sibanda, Madam Simsimane. Thank you very much. So the item 8 is approved. Allow me, colleagues, just to go back to item 7, which is the decision and reasons for decision. RFP on the tariff application by Easy Gas Pty Ltd for the petroleum storage facility located in Cape Town in Western Cape Province. Mr. Timashang, please just take it as read and present the key aspects of this application.
Thank you, Chair. The tariff requested for approval of 32.46 cents per litre and recommended for approval by NESA is highlighted on pages 10 of the PPS cover submission and 14 of the decision and reasons for decision document. Key issues to consider include differences in the RAP due to differences in the calculation of net working capital values, due to differences in trade receivables calculation, differences in WACC due to the different cost of equity calculated by both parties, due to the different risk-free rate and market risk premium data used to calculate, and the tax expense values due to the differences in values used to calculate the final tax figures. I would like to request members to note the formatting errors that will be corrected at the ER implementation stage, like page numbering under the volume section in the RFD on page 30 and reference of the incorrect date of the tariff methodology. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I take it also that even in this one, do consider the inputs made in the others, the preceding two applications discussed. Members, any other comments, questions, or guidance? I don't know, Madam Semane, whether this is a lingering hand or it's a new hand.
Apologies, Chair, it's a lingering one. I'll take it down.
Thank you very much. In the absence of any questions, guidance or comments, I would then go to the recommendation, which is for the recommendation for the Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee to approve the tariff of 32.69 cents per litre for the easy gas storage facility for the 2023 financial year, and also to approve the decision and reasons for decision document attached here to as Annex A, subject to the enhancements alluded to during the meeting. By show of hands, members. Thank you, Madam Maseti, Mr. Kumete, Mr. Sbanda, Madam Semane. I also do support, and I also note that it is confirmed that EasyGas is a level 3 triple BE contributor, and the error that is on item 6 will be rectified accordingly. Thank you. We then proceed to item seem to be confusing items here.
Item 9.
Item 9, yes. Let's go to item 9.
Thank you, Chair, and good day. The purpose of this submission is to request the PPS to approve a tariff of 32.69 cents per litre as applied by EasyGas for the operation of its petroleum storage facility in Alberton for the tariff period 1st January 2023 and until 31st December 2023, and to also approve the decision and reasons for the decision document attached here to as Annex A. EasyGas has applied for a tariff of 32.69 cents per litre, and NERSA determined a tariff of 32.38 cents per litre, which results in a percentage difference of 0.97. In terms of the volume efficiency, EasyGas is considered efficient, and the difference in the tariff applied for by EasyGas and that determined by NERSA is mainly due to the different rep values, work values, and tax expense. It is therefore recommended that PPS approve the tariff applied for by EasyGas for its storage facility in Alberton, and that the decision and reasons for the decision be approved for publication. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, you have a mute.
Oh, sorry, I was speaking on a muted mic. Any questions, comments, or guidance members? In the absence of that, I would then go to to paragraph 42, which is a recommendation for the Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee to approve the tariff of 32.69 cents per litre for the easy gas storage facility for the 2023 financial year, and to also approve the decision and reason for decision document attached here to as Annex A, subject to the enhancement that have already been alluded to. By show of hands, members, if you support the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Kumete. Thank you, Madam Semane. Thank you, Mr. Sbanda. I also do support. I don't see Madam Maseti.
Was the second one after Mr. Kumete, Chair.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Yeah. So this item has been approved, and we proceed to item 10.
Thank you. The purpose of this submission is to request the PPS to approve a tariff of 14.39 cents per litre as applied for by EasyGas for its petroleum storage facility in Kimberley, and to also approve the decision and reasons for decision document attached here to as Annex A. EasyGas applied for a tariff of 14.39 cents per litre, and NERSA determined a tariff of 14.28 cents per litre, which results in a percentage difference of 0.79%. The difference in the tariff applied for by EasyGas and that determined by NERSA is mainly due to the different RAB values, work values, and the tax expense. It is therefore recommended that the PPS approve the tariff applied for by EasyGas, and that the decision and reasons for decision be approved for publication. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Members, any questions, comments, or guidance? Seeing that the previous comments would also apply on this, application. I will then move to the recommendation, which is the recommendation for the Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee to approve the tariff of 14.39 cents per litre for the easy gas storage facility in Kimberley, Northern Cape Province for the 2023 financial year, and to also approve the decision and reasons for taking document attached here to as Annexure A, subject to those enhancements alluded to earlier on. By show of hands, members. Thank you, Mr. Kumete. Thank you, Madam Maseti, Mr. Sibanda, Madam Semane. I also do support this. Then concludes item 10. We're moving to item 11, which is the easy gas tariff application for the petroleum storage facility located in Kimberley in Northern Cape Province. Madam Mahupela.
Sorry, Chair, it's the engine STF tariff application. The Kimberley we just dealt with now.
I'll have to look at this. Okay, continue with the STF application.
Okay, the purpose of this submission is to request the PPS to approve.
Just hold on just a second, because the way things look like here seems like item, just for the sake of ensuring that members have got, there's no problem, but item 11 and item 10, they seem to have been, at least on my side, I had some problem with it, but fine. Let's proceed with the engine limited facility then, which is item 11 on your side. Proceed, ma'am.
The purpose of this submission is to request the PPS to approve 3.43 cents per litre tariff for the 2022 financial year and the 3.42 cents per litre tariff for the 2023 financial year as applied for by Engine Petroleum for the operation of its South Tank Farm Petroleum Storage Facility in Prospection, and also to request members to approve the decision and reasons for decision document attached here to as Annexure A. On 5 September 2022, the Energy Regulator approved a license to operate the Prospection Storage Facility, and the tariff applied for is for approval following the approval of the STF operation license. The percentage difference between the tariffs applied for by engine and the tariff calculated by NERSA is -2 for the 2022 and -5 for the 2023 financial year. The difference in the tariffs applied for by engine and that determined by NERSA is mainly due to the different REP values, work values, and the tax expense. It is therefore recommended that the PPS approve the tariffs applied for by engine for each storage facility in Prospection, and that the decision and reasons for the decision be approved for publication. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, guidance members on this one? Mr. Kumede?
Thanks, Chairperson. Firstly, I do support the actual recommendation, and to also indicate that for me, it's quite clear that to the extent to which perhaps these tanks could be deemed to be primary tanks, or the tanks that are intended for imports, it's presenting a good opportunity in terms of security of supply. And I think, I'm pretty happy with this. But the question that then arose for me, and I wasn't sure that to raise this under item 17 or to raise it here. That it's quite clear that as a country, we're moving towards mainly being import-based, with everything that comes with it, especially with the ships that couldn't dock in Cape Town and everything. The question I was asking myself, is it not possible that, yes, the SPM, as was indicated in terms of crude processing, is now deemed redundant, can't be used, will probably not be used going forward. But is it possible to for the country to consider looking at a single point mooring for Durban? Can we initiate a study or assist the DMRE to use perhaps the Energy Act of 2008 to drive a study for security of supply, something that could then facilitate the proper use of those facilities and not having to go through the berths and so forth, and also risk all of the issues that come with that. Is it something that's possible if we accept the fact that we're going into an import mode as a country? We're going beyond 30%, 50% of our product that we consume to be to be based on finished product. Should we not be looking at a facility that will facilitate that? Chairperson, apologies to raising it here, but that's the point that I actually have the point here. But that's the kind of thinking I was coming up with. Whether it belongs to this particular submission, Chair, or it belongs later, I don't know. But I support the submission. But should we not, if this is the direction that we are going, should we not be looking to see how we can optimize it? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gumede. Madam Maseti.
Chairperson, I do support the recommendations, but I think part of our reasoning that we have on page 9, paragraph 29, in terms of the monitoring to track these volumes for adjustments and all that, I would request that perhaps we do that on a quarterly basis and then do annual reconciliation and perhaps finalize clawback calculation after the audited financials. Maybe we just need to reflect those words, change the monthly there to quarterly basis for purposes of monitoring the volumes, Chairperson, and then also indicate the annual reconciliation of such volumes, and then do the calculations for clawback purposes after we received the audited financials. That's just my contribution, Chairperson, in the way that we need to just rephrase and couch paragraph 29. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any responses, Madam Mahupela? I also note the issue of quarterly, whether maybe we instead of monthly, should we move to bi-monthly or quarterly, because it could be informed by other, maybe without having a regulatory burden and increasing administrative burden also on our side, but maybe there are other operational issues that would require a different period other than quarterly. Just want to know.
Thank you, Chair. I think if we can make amendment to that, because the petroleum licensees do submit the volumes monthly. Thank you.
Okay, it's the monthly is already underway. It's not something that is just based on this one.
Yes, all licensees are expected to submit volumes monthly as per the PLC requirements.
Okay, so this, yeah, phrase it accordingly then, so that you make it clear that these volumes are coming through, but that we'll have to then from our side look at it at a quarterly basis and do the reconciliations as already put forth by Madam Maseti. But just to put it in context, the way you craft it.
Okay, thank
you. And then the question from Mr. Gumede.
The question for Mr. Gumede, maybe Ms. Bogo can assist, or maybe licensing department can assist.
Madam Bogo.
Thank you, Chairperson. I was going to suggest that we deal with that under item 17, and but then I do think that is something that the team can do. But Ms. Mtwa is maybe better positioned to assist us in this. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the long and short of it, Mr. Gumede, is that this matter is being looked at as part of dealing with the changing landscape in and feeding back to the department as a first line of implementation of the policies and legislation. Looking at the landscape changes with the what is happening with the apparent dissemination of our refining capacity in the country. Matter noted. With that, ladies and gentlemen, members, I will then move to the recommendation, which is subject to the inputs made and the incorporation thereof in the decision. In the decision and reasons for decision document. It is recommended that the Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee approves tariffs of 3.43 cents per litre for the 2022 financial year and 3.42 cents per litre for the 2023 financial year for Engines South Tank Farm, and that it also approves the decision and reasons for decision document attached to as Annexure A. By show of hands, members, if you support the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Kumet, Madam Maseti, Mr. Sibanda, Madam Simane. I also do support. This then concludes item 11. Item 12 has been dealt with, having been moved forward. And then item 13 is actually the round robin that was circulated and did not get the requisite signatures or votes. So it's been put forth here, which is the preliminary findings on the investigation into the complaint by Transnet vis-a-vis Sasol Oil and Total SA. Maybe you can weigh in, Madam Tua.
Chairperson, we were going to consider it as being read. We did make an enhancement as was guided by the members and consulted further with LAS in terms of issues that were raised, which were of legal. I'm not sure if Mr. Riba, are there anything that you want to highlight on the actual round robin? Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. No, not really, ma'am. Like you said, we took it as read, and the whole report was enhanced and restructured as suggested by the members of the meeting. And what we have done was to separate the cover submission and make a separate report, which will serve as a final report, which is attached as Annexure A of this cover submission. And we changed the recommendation or the purpose to request the PPS to consider and approve the enhanced report on the preliminary findings on the investigation, and which is attached as Annexure A, and B, to also approve the preliminary findings which are attached in the same report, as well as approve that we share these findings with the affected members, so that we solicit the final comments towards this findings, and then we finalize this matter. Chair, we have also in the cover submission, I don't have the document that was circulated to the members in terms of the round robin. I understand it was a huge document and it was shared as a link on the board pack. So I'm working on what I have that was signed by the CEO. And as Table 1, we list where the responses to the members' questions, which forms a part of the enhancements to this report. And yeah, and also just to emphasize what our findings were. They were basically based on what Transnet sought as a relief or requested NASA to give as a relief after concluding the investigation into this investigation. And the first what you call a request for relief was for NASA to declare that the variation agreement was not approved by, I mean, the tariff that was set in the variation agreement was not what was approved by NASA. Yes, we did find that, yes, we agree with that. And that part was also agreed to with the court findings, if I'm not mistaken, yes. And also the fact that there was a discrimination. The court found that there was no discrimination, but rather differentiation in terms of the second request for relief. And the last request was that we instruct Sasol and Total to abide by the tariffs that were set by NASA. The Concord on 21st of June did rule that the validation agreement was terminable and was only valid up to the 13th of September 2020. So anything before that and the tariffs payable were based on this agreement, and anything after, yes, we can, they can be based on what the NASA tariffs were from that period going on forward. Yeah, that's basically that. And then with that, we recommended that the committee approve this this report, which is attached as Annexure A, together with these preliminary findings, which are outlined in Section 7 of this report, as well as that we share these findings with the parties so that we solicit comments and we close this matter. Thank you, Chair. I don't know if wants to comment on the 6th day. Thanks.
Thank you. I think the matter was put on a round robin for reason of agency to get it settled. Unfortunately, there was no I beg to say. My appeal is that we adequately respond, whether it's a yea or a nay. It's neither here nor there. But attending to these round robins will assist us not to put ourselves in the conditions, in the situation that we now find ourselves in. But with that, I'd just like to note, I know that Madam Massetti had responded to that, and myself was a signatory to that in support of the recommendation as put forth. The option would be to say members must just respond to that, but since it is here, members, just by show of hands, if you support the recommendation put forth. Thank you, Madam Simane. Thank you, Mr. Kumete. Madam Massetti has already indicated approval. Thank you, Madam Massetti, and Mr. Sibanda. I haven't seen your hand, Mr. Sibanda.
Chair, my hand was up. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So thank you. So this round robin is then approved, and then we proceed to item 14. Please, Madam Twa.
Sorry, Chair, it's still another easy case tariff application. If Ms. Ngosi can come in, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. This is easy case first tariff application. Therefore, no drawback calculation is included. From paragraph 14 to 78 of the RFD provide the assessment of the tariff application. It is therefore recommended that the PPS members approves the tariffs applied for by EasyGas for East Durban Petroleum Storage Facility for the period of 1 January to 31st December 2023, and approve the decision and reasons for decision document attached here to as Annexure A. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And you note the question, the comments that have been put forth in the prior applications of by this same applicant to incorporate in enhancing the document accordingly. And now I'm going to take any other new comments, questions, or guidance from members, if any. I note that there is none, and therefore I proceed to the recommendation, which is under paragraph 45, where it's recommended that the Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee approves the tariff of 72.02 cents per litre for the easy gas storage facility in Durban for the period 1 January 2023 to 31st December 2023, and that the PPS approves the decision and reasons for decision document attached to its Annexure A. By show of hands, members, if you support the recommendation. Thank you. Madam Massetti, Mr. Kumete, Madam Simane, Mr. Sibanda, I also do support. Thank you. This then concludes item 14. And members, this then brings us to the end of the items that we could discuss in the open meeting. I would just like to see by show of hands, members, if you are supportive that we take a resolution in terms of section 8, subsection 9 of the National Energy Regulator Act to close the meeting for items 15, 16, 17. Just by show of hands, if you support that resolution.
They are not confidential, Chairperson, but I think these are governance matters in terms of that section for the resolution. Yes. So yes. That's when I thought you will close the meeting for purposes of dealing with sort of governance issues that are not for the consumption of the public, but not in terms of section 8 sub 9, as that deals strictly with confidentiality. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, sections. I mean, for item 16, it's confidentiality matters, and then 15 and 17 for governance. So for that, yeah. Thanks. Then I take it that the meeting. Then we agree that we close the meeting.